Hola everyone and welcome to PanterA Riff of the Week. Today I figured I'm gonna be showing to you the riff, the faster riff of Slaughtered, which is probably one of the harder riffs, definitely one of the harder riffs of PanterA. Not necessarily because of the phrasings, it's most because of the right hand technique. So let me show you all the details of it. So let's begin with the easier part. We are in 3/4, meaning that there's 3 quarter notes in one bar. The first part of this section is very straightforward. 7 bars of all downstrokes, E power chords palm muted. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then at the end of this round starts again with the downstroke, but instead of a quarter note, it's an 8th note, followed by a quarter note with an upstroke on an upbeat. It's a power chord on the A1, but you also want to make sure that you add the E1 there, the low 5th. Make it really heavy. And then repeat again, another quarter note. And at the end, the same chord again, but it's an 8th note now, so that makes it a whole bar. And then we start over. So this is one ending, and the other variation will be a muted E1, but I'll talk about that later. Then it continues with that sliding part, and there's 2 variations of slides. The first one coming on beat number 1 from E1, a subtle slide up that is followed with 2 palm muted E power chords. And then the second variation look like this. You start with an open power chord, E power chord, palm muted, and then on beat number 2 you do a very similar slide up, and then another quarter downstroke palm mute. So this is the variation number 2. Once you learn all these riffs individually, you have to just put together the structure. And if you're going straight to the fast part, this one, this is the alternate ending for the whole thing. Down, up, down with the palm mute 1 string. And that's how we continue from. So whenever I learn something new or difficult, I always sit down and try to dissect each parts into smaller bits and pieces, which then I can put together once I learned and practice them. That's what I'm gonna do here now with this riff. There's some minor details that makes it more difficult than it already sounds. I would play only this part first. So let's start with this part. First, I would like to visualize and memorize all the notes that I'm playing there. Between all the melody notes, I'm gonna play these E1s. This one. So once I get that down, I can focus on the melody, which starts on the D string, D3, and then it goes up to 4, and then goes down to 2, and back to 3. So far. And we're gonna repeat that same exact thing on the A string. So 3, 4, 2, 3. So once I get that down, I just come up with the fingering positions, and it totally makes sense to use all 4. Nice reminder. So this is sort of a chromatic shape, so it totally makes sense to use all 4 fingers there. So that's why I play the 3 with the ring finger, 4 with the pinky, 2 with the middle finger, and keep the index finger on the E1. And once I get the fingerings down, then I have to think about the picking, which is the most difficult part of the whole riff. Down and up all the time. Down. Sounds like a Doom soundtrack or something like that. Okay, we have to play this E1 with a palm mute. So all these downstrokes and E1s are palm muted, and everything else is open. So actually want to stop on the open E strings because that's where we continue the riff. Make sure that you got this part down very comfortable. Another thing that makes it challenging is that the 1 is actually this note, which is an upstroke, because we're gonna start in the previous bar on an upbeat with a downstroke. So that can mess you up. And now to finish up the first half of this riff, 3 open E palm muted notes with alternate pickings, down, up, down, and then add E1, and then go back to open E. So far. All palm muted, and then we go up back to the A second, upstroke again, and then E1, and then A3, finishing it on the E1. Actually, I would practice this part from the A3 the second time. So with an upstroke you start there, and then with the downstroke. So I would work on this one. And then put the 2 together. Okay, you see, slowly. Let's talk about the second part of this riff, which is the harder one. The first part of this one is actually the same. Up until here, everything is the same. So let's talk about what happens afterwards that actually makes it more difficult than the previous one. Instead of using an upstroke, we're gonna switch to downstroke. So we're gonna play down this note. After the A3, we're gonna play the open E string 4 times in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, all palm muted. We're gonna finish this riff starting with an upstroke, quarter notes, and it's very similar to what we played before, but instead of the A1, it's now the A2, the power chord, adding again the E string as well. So this is how the whole thing looks together, and you want to make sure that you know this one fast. Once you have that down, you can tie the 2 together, and then you'll see why it is so difficult. After this palm muted E1, which is a downstroke, you have to downstroke again on the A3. And that is pretty fast. So slow, this is how it looks. Then you either continue with this riff, or the second time you actually put another bar using only ghost notes there, alternate pickings, down, up, 6 times, and the last bar again is very similar, and this is the end. And that's about it. Thank you very much for checking in. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and do all that kind of stuff. It's a direct support of me. If you want to do that, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. And also, if you have any suggestions on which songs or riffs you want to hear next, just feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll see you next time. Ciao. So it totally makes sense to use all 4 fingers. Like, because this is like a chromatic. This is kind of a. So this is sort of a chromatic shape, so it totally makes sense to use all 4 fingers there. And then 3 times we're gonna play. And then 3 times we're gonna play the E. And then 3 times we're gonna play the open E string muted, starting with an upstroke now. So after this down. After the A3, we're gonna play the open E string 4 times in a row, starting with the downstroke. 1, 2, 3, 4, all palm muted.